in the drug voice.
Oh, actually, no, that was the last question there. Ladies, no, I'm just kidding. Come on. Yes, come on. No, I can't answer the whole question. What's the question?
Well, as a fan of Star Trek, I was wondering, what are you hoping for in the next movie? Would you like some more original stuff or stuck to the original style with the difference of the new one?
I want
microphone on the, can we get the microphone on? Can we get, everybody handle the microphone.
I love how many TARDISes there are in this room.
I know, a lot of, oh, are we on the board? Here, let me, okay. Osric, can you fix that, please? Thanks.
Thank you. Oh wow, this is
Thanks a lot. When you're finished with that, Osric, can you just go close that door, please, too?
So my question was, who was like the most fun to work with on set, like out of all the cast members?
That is a really tough question. Because
you go, Osric, you go on stage. I'll stand here. I'm good.
Well, okay. Well, I feel like it's like on the Supernatural set, it's like a competition at who can have the most fun, honestly. Which is why the gag reel is so crazy. Is because every single day, you know, you have a bunch of alpha males, and this includes the crew, right? Like B-Cam, they do they're like almost always naked. I don't understand, right? This is B-Cam. Right, they're a whole crew, and you know they're always like they always just whip out like nipple pasties out of nowhere, and like people will open doors and they're all like they're like groping each other, like out of nowhere, right? And this is B-Cam that you rarely ever hear about, but they probably get. I mean, they get around to a lot of things. So every single person is always, you know, someone will do something stupid, and then the next person has to escalate, you know, and escalates, and before the end of the day, we have like a full gag reel for one day of work. You know, and it's like that every single day. So I mean, who has the most? Who's the most fun to work with? Actually, and that also depends on whether or not you consider that fun. I mean, yes, it's fun, but we also get not a lot done. Like Jared's probably the most notorious for wasting time, and for me, that's not really fun because if we don't make our day, usually like. Osric, this is your fault. And they always do. And I don't know if they're joking or not because their first AD, he's kind of mean, but it's just the way he is, so I can never tell if he's joking. And so he'll be the one that says, Osric, like, can you not do this? Like, and he'll be very straight about it, but and usually like a month or two later, I'll find out that he was joking. And it's just the way he delivers his lines. So because of that, Jared wasting time isn't very fun for me. And so I'll say probably Mark Shepard, you know? Like, I've worked with Mark a lot, and he's got such a dry sense of humor, and I thought he hated me for a while. Because when I first met him, I'm like, hi, my name is Osric, what's your name? And he does this. And so he's pointing to his chair that says Mark Shepard on it. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's mean. So I kind of avoided him. And that was the first date and the only date that I worked with him on season 7. And then I went to San Diego ComicCon in that same year. This was months later. I did the a Halo movie, and I had to chop off all my hair, so I looked completely different. And so San Diego, that was the first time I really saw the Supernatural fandom. I got recognized 4 times. Like, people it's like, you look like Kevin, you know, like, what happened to your hair? But one of those 4 people was Mark Shepard. And has anyone been to San Diego ComicCon? Show of hands? Okay, well, there's about, what, 35,000 people here? So San Diego ComicCon, there is 130,000 people. And that's just the number of tickets sold. People go just to party, right? And so there's this big intersection where it's the railway, and you have thousands and thousands of people at any given moment trying to cross the street. And so I was on my own, and I was just crossing the street, going into the downtown, trying to find some food. And all of a sudden, I get this hand on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Mark, and he's like, Osric! This just proves you don't all look alike. And he was with Misha and Jim, and, you know, they were, like, being escorted off, and he just stopped, went out of his way just to say hi, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I was just gonna try to find some food. And he's like, just follow us. And so Mark took me on this adventure, and I was, like, backstage. I was in this gifting suite where, like, all the big stars are getting all these things, and I'm like, okay, and Mark's just like, I'm like, okay. So I felt like I was feeling everything. It was so crazy. Like, people were offering, like, sunglasses and jeans and all these things, and I'm like, okay. I just kept filling in this goodie bag. I'm like, okay, and I'm, like, beside Michael Jai White. I'm like, oh my God, this is so weird. But it was this, like, weird thing, and he just took me backstage, and like, that was the moment where I'm like, oh my God, he doesn't hate me. And ever since, I just really got to know Mark, and he's been, like, my favorite person ever since.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Not to mention, I've had so many scenes with him after that, too. Yeah. He's really fun to work with. Okay, all right. What do you guys like? For me, it's been Marvel since I was a kid. The Hulk is my favorite. You know why? Because Marvel characters have so many more flaws than the DC characters, and I really like that. You know, like Peter Parker and Bruce Banner. Like, those are the characters that I grew up with, and I just like that they're not so complete. Like, nothing against like Superman, but I just feel like you really have to try to make him an interesting character. Because he's so perfect. How can anyone relate to him? And, like, the first movie I actually quite liked, because they kind of made a point of that. It's like, Superman's really lonely because no one can ever understand how he feels, right? And so you have a lot of those big shots where he's just up alone in space, and, you know, he kind of is God because he can listen to everything and he has all this power. And in a sense, there is no one that can relate to him on that level. And, you know, and it is very sad. And that was the first time I'm like, oh, okay, never thought of it that way. But apart from that, he's kind of a boring character. And so, yeah, I mean, Marvel movies aside, like, I read a lot of the Marvel, the Ultimate Universe stuff, and it just really, I like the art style of Marvel better too, like the artists that they had. It just always, it struck a chord with me, so Marvel.
Right answer.
Hi.
Hi.
My question is, since you like cosplaying, what's the cosplay you had the most fun doing?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I feel like every single one I do is my new favorite, but the one that, there's 2, and they're all female characters for some reason. The 2 that I had most fun doing was because they changed so much of my life. So last year was the first year that I started doing conventions, right, as a guest. And it's all due to Supernatural. And so my 3rd convention ever, right before it was ComicCon, San Diego ComicCon, and I had put together this costume, and it cost me like $600. You know, I spent a month making it, had, like, tailored and everything, like, ordered the boots and the wigs online, and I had this really nice costume that I just wanted to use, and I ended up working that week, so I couldn't. So I had this costume, and I'm like, oh wait, I'm doing the Supernatural convention, like, 2 weeks later, so I'll just wear it for that, right? And it didn't occur to me that I was a guest. because it was my third one, right? And it was still very new to me. So I put it on in the morning, and then I walked into the hall, and my handler and Richard Spade Jr. were there. And right away, Richard's jaw just drops. It's like, what the hell are you? I'm like, I'm Princess Bubblegum. Like, what are you talking about? I'm Princess Bubblegum. He's like, you say that like I should know what that is. And he's just like whatever, we're late. And so, and like right away, like it felt like such a normal decision. I'm like, people there's like 100 Castiels at every single Supernatural con. Like, this is a normal thing, right? This is and I'm just telling myself, this is a normal thing. And then I see like the organizer, he's like, he just stares at me. He's like, and then he doesn't say anything. I do my panel. I thought it went over really well. And as soon as I stepped off, he comes back over to me and he looks at me. He's like, I've been doing conventions for 32 years and I've never had a guest come out like this. And then he walks away. Right? And so when I get home, I get calls from my agent, and it's like, Osric, people go to these conventions to meet Osric Chau, not Osric Chau as Princess Bubblegum. Like, but I thought it was fun. Anyway, so the next convention, I'm like, okay, people didn't like it, so I didn't do it. But it was Halloween. So of course everyone else dressed up, and they're like, and they like to poke at people, like, so Richard's like, Osric, like, really, you dress up as a princess and for Halloween you don't do anything? And so the one after that was my last one that year, was BurCon, and I had a friend that just like, it's like, hey, you like dresses? I got this dress, I think you'd fit it. And I'm like, no, I don't think I should dress up. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, no, you know what? I'm going to dress up. And this might be my last convention ever, but I'm going to do it anyways. And so it was a Rapunzel outfit. I'm like, Kevin had a frying pan in that episode. And I saw a bunch of the stuff on Tumblr. It's like, beside Rapunzel. I'm like, it's perfect. The fandom will get it. Princess Bubblegum was so random, but this one makes sense. And so I got the wig, I braided it and all, I painted my eyebrows, I got a pastel, I got a 14-pound cast iron frying pan, and I just did it, and it went over so well, and ever since I'm like, well, I guess I can go back to the conventions in costume now. And so between those two, it really changed, it changed the type of guest that I am, I guess. It allowed me to really be myself at these conventions, and they invited me for every single one this year because of it, I think. So it just became my thing, and it's been so much fun. Every time I do a new convention and I come up with a new costume, it's exciting. I get a chance to really meet and get to know like a new cosplayer that helps me out, and I don't know, it's just an adventure. The feeling of that I still get nervous going on stage, and every single time I'm thinking of ways that I can best myself. It's just like another thing that I do now. But it keeps it fresh, and it makes me excited every single time. So I think for that reason, those two costumes really stick out to me.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, your bow tie is falling off a little bit. It's really bothering me.
Oh, wow. Yes, it did. Okay,
Is that your question?
No. So, like, on the Supernatural set, what was your most embarrassing moment?
Most embarrassing moment. Most embarrassing moment. There's so many ways I can answer this question. Do we keep it light? Do we go sad? Let's see. Most embarrassing moment was, I guess, okay, Jared and Jensen are pretty good. They always try to make me crack up, but usually I'm pretty good with it. This one day, I was like, as soon as we're done, I kind of had to go to the airport, and I had to catch my flight to LA, right? And Jared had to do the same thing. We're gonna finish this location, and they're just gonna go straight to the airport. And we're pressed with time, right? We had one more shot left to do, and that was it. And so we do all the coverage, and the last shot was on me, and so I'm trying to do it, and this Jared doesn't really say anything in the scene. This is kind of like between me and Dean, and Jared just starts like stroking my leg with his foot. And I'm really ticklish, and I shouldn't have said anything. But as soon as he made contact with my knee, I just broke down. I'm like, sorry, I need a redo. And of course, this just makes Jared want to do it more. So he just kept at it, like take after take, and he starts getting in there into my crotch, and every time I'm like kicking his foot. By this time, I'm like, Jared, stop it! I'm yelling, and it just makes him crack up, and because he's bored. He's a child, he's a big baby, and he got bored, and he just wouldn't stop. And by the time he stopped, Jensen would jump in. I'm like, Jensen, you've been so good up until this, and of course, because everyone just, they all jump on it, and they're all yelling at me. They're like, Osric, just do this. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it. And then as soon as Jensen stops, Jensen starts again, right? And I'm like, Jared, don't you want to see your baby? Like you have a flight to catch. So I'm like I'm basically like punching him in the arm at this point. And it was embarrassing because it just took like 40 minutes to get one shot, when it should have taken 5 minutes. Yeah, I know. It's because of those situations that I always try to be the guy that just kind of like, okay, guys, let's do that. So if I can help it, I think by the end of it, I was just like holding his legs down, we're like wrestling with our feet, and I was just like locking his feet in so he wouldn't do it, and he was just cracking up, but he wasn't on screen, so I just did the scene that way, and I was all right, but everyone was pretty much laughing at me by that point. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my god. Okay. Hi.
Hi.
Do you guys receive mail from fans? And if so, what's the weirdest thing that you or Jared or Jensen or Misha have gotten from a fan?
Yes, we do. Most of my mail goes through my agents now. Honestly, the Supernatural fandom has been pretty good. I think Misha gets the weirdest stuff. They're pretty funny. But the weirdest things I've ever gotten actually has not been from the Supernatural family. I feel like the fans that send me things are always very thoughtful. It comes from a really good place, and it's all very much appreciated. One of the biggest movies that I've done is 2012, and that really kind of launched my career. And after that movie, I didn't know the scale of the movie, and I didn't understand. I was still so green. I didn't understand what it could have done for me and how it could have affected me. And so my website's still up, and as any starting actor is like, this is me, I do this, here's how you contact me. So that weekend that it came out, my website crashed. It was a friend who did my website for me. He freaked out. He's like, I can't access my thing, and I have my school projects on there too. And I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And I had like 1,000 emails over a weekend. And so I'm, being a little OCD, I have to open every single one of them. And I don't know what it is about 2012, but I had a really large gay fan base. And they're an amazing fan base, but they're very forward. And so a lot of these emails had pictures attached to them. And a lot of them were in great shape, they're all, they take care of themselves. But I didn't know how to react. But like, Osric, what do you think? Good job? I don't know. I did not know how to react. And, sometimes I'd get like physical mail to my agents, and I don't want to name any names, but there's this one guy in particular, he had like the neatest handwriting, and every single time, and he sent me mail for like 2 years, maybe one every 3 months, but it's like the most beautiful like European cursive writing I've ever seen, and every time he'd send me like 3 or 4 pictures of himself, and it's always the same. There's like 7 pictures, and it's always from the same group. And the letters are almost exactly the same. It's like, hi, my name is this. I'm from here. I like these things. I like you. Please send me these things. And it was, I don't know, it was just like a weird thing. And I'd just get them every now and then, like, oh, hey, there's that guy again. But I know, I think for the most part, the Supernatural fandom is very thoughtful when you guys, I mean, I feel like we've come through so much together as a group, and usually, I mean, minus Misha, usually the stuff we get is pretty awesome. Misha gets the weirdest things. I swear, we should. Sometimes we'll just read the Misha stuff in the green room. Okay, anyways, enough about Misha's weird mail. Yeah, so I think I'm pretty lucky with the stuff I get.
Okay, thanks.